morning to all. This is Manikya Rao, lecturer in economics, working at Andhra Pradesh Residential Junior College, Nagarjuna Sagar. So I welcome you all again into online class. So in our second year economics, we have been discussing about New Industrial Policy 1991. Earlier, we have seen that what is meant by 1948 Industrial Policy, which is very first industrial policy central government has implemented in the year 1948, and later after independence and India become republic, second industrial policy 1956 it has been implemented, and we have also studied that what are the objectives of both industrial policies and what are the main features of industrial policies. When it comes to the main features of Industrial Policy 1948, it has been given emphasis more on mixed economy. Mixed economy means public and private sector work together for the development of economy, especially for industrial growth. When it comes to the second industrial policy 1956, it has given major thrust, that is on the basis of socialistic pattern of society. So equality must be given to all, equal opportunities. So as a directive principles of our Indian Constitution, socialistic pattern of society, by establishing industries and by providing employment opportunities for more people, and finally it reduces the income inequalities in backward areas and minimize poverty. There are many features are there. Earlier we have also studied. Now let us focus on that is very important concept in 5th chapter, that is New Industrial Policy 1991. With regard to this 1991 Industrial Policy, I have also given explanation. What are the factors led New Industrial Policy 1991 has been emerged? Why earlier new industrial policies are not enough? What was the need to introduce New Industrial Policy 1991? Because of India was under tremendous changes before 1990s. During that time, Indian economy faced lot of problems with regard to low foreign currency reserves, and many of public sector units have facing losses, hug losses, become sick industries. Even government also it has decided to further it could not run all the public sector units which are incur losses, and inflation also it has been touched nearly 13.5%, and there are unemployment problem, financial crisis we can say in other words. So there is a lot of changes has been taken place because of political uncertainty as the major factor during 1990s. So later 1991, when Dr. Manmohan Singh and Sri P.V. Narasimha Rao, these two important people, they had a good vision to restructure our Indian economy, and our Indian economy also would go and give equal competition at international market. India should join in global economy. Global economy. So that is their thought. That is their thought. So when it comes to the objectives of 1991 industrial policy and features, if we see, already I have explained the objectives of 1991 industrial policies. That is to build on the gain already achieved earlier. That is first feature. Second one is to maintain sustained growth in productivity and gainful employment. Sustained growth and productivity, gainful employment. Third one is to attain technological dynamism. Technologically, India also could get more changes, dynamism, because technology cannot stable. It can change. It can bring many things in all the fields, not only in service sector, even in agriculture sector, industrial sector, even education sector, even health, and many things. Technological dynamism takes in place, and also international competitiveness. So when it comes to the main, these are the objectives. These are the objectives. Coming to features. First feature is already I have mentioned, delicensing. Features of new IP 1991. First feature is delicensing. Delicensing. Delicensing means license has been abolished. There is no obtain license permission to establish any industries in any area. But there are certain industries, if people they want to establish, there must be prior approval taken from central government. Permission must be taken from central government. What are those industries likely? That is arm, ammunition, defense equipment, atomic energy, minerals, and again railways and transportation. These industries, if government definitely should allow people to establish this type of industries. Central government must give the permission. Remaining industries, there is no need of license. So therefore, delicensing means licensing policy has been abolished. Only particular industries license is required. That is first point of industrial policy 1991 features. Then second one is reservation for public sector units. Reservation for public sector units. Reservation for public sector. So here we can say there is establishment of key industries and strategic industries. Key industries means steel, coal industry, iron industry, and other jute industries, strategic industries. So there should be a reservation for government only. All these industries must established by central government itself. Central government itself. Those industries are very, very important for industrial development. Industrial development. Then coming to third one is automatic clearance to import technology, foreign technology, automatic import, automatic clearance, automatic clearance to import of capital goods, capital goods, automatic clearance to import capital goods. So generally India, when it has started the new industrial policy, it requires many capital goods imported from other countries. When India in a position to import other technology from other countries, India should pay amount, money. That money can be made in the foreign equity fund. Foreign equity fund. Every country generally having a trade relations, they have to kept some amount in IMF, that is International Monetary Fund. So that money can exchange between the countries which are having trade relations. So automatic clearance to import capital goods from other countries. Then fourth one is location. Fourth one is location. If any industry, it should be established around the city or nearby city, there must be license, that is permission must be given. The citizens with more than 1 million population established an industry other than those of non-polluting industry. Non-polluting industry, if people establish, it should be distance of 25 kilometers its periphery. If that industry is non-polluting, it could not release any environmental pollution. It must be a non-polluting industry. So such industry, government has given the green signal. That is, license has been given for that locality, because people, they may live around the industries, and a lot of animals and many living things, they may habitate there. So such industry, if it creates environmental pollution, it affects their health. So that industry must be non-polluting. That is location policy. Location policy. Then coming to foreign investment policy. Foreign investment policy. So generally, according to new industrial policy 1991, approval will be given to direct foreign investment. Foreign investment, that is FDI. Minimum, the permission has been allowed 51%. 51% foreign direct investment is allowed at the time of 1991 industrial policy when it was introduced. It has clearly mentioned up to 51% foreign direct investment has been allowed. But nowadays, after implementation of this 1991 policy and came into SEZ, Special Economic Zone, and many things have been taken place. Exemption, that is more foreign direct investment are allowed up to 64, 74, even 100% of foreign direct investment also it has been allowed in the sectors of telecommunication and railways, even in airways, all other important sectors, even science and technology also. 100% foreign direct investment has been allowed. But here the point is up to 51% it has been allowed for foreign direct investment. Then coming to sixth one. Sixth one is foreign technology agreement. Foreign technology agreement. Automatic approval for technology agreement high priority. Automatic agreement to import foreign technology. Foreign technology should be, permission has been given. Because along with machines, even technology also we need. The technology in terms of people or in terms of machines. It has also given the permission, foreign technology agreement. Then seventh one is public sector policy. Public sector policy, seventh one. Public sector policy means government will have the held responsibility to protect the interests of workers who are engaged in different industries. So when such industries close down or become sick or running into losses, so it is the held responsibility to protect the interests of workers who are working in such industries. So such industries are closed down. Those people suffer a lot. They lost their jobs. So immediately in that context, government has to rehabilitate or shift those workers into another industry which is running into profits. Otherwise government has to pay some money until they will get another job provided by central government or replaced in other places. So that type of security must be, it is held responsibility of central government. Because of these reasons, there is a BIFR. BIFR, it stands for Board for Industrial Financial Reconstruction, which was established in the year 1985. Board for Industrial and Financial Reconstruction. So is constituted to undertake the revival of sick units. There is a board constituted. What are the industries which become sick, running into losses? What are the reasons? So there was a committee. If there is a possibility, such industries should study, and if there is a chance to run again into revive or running into profits, those industries must taking and examine where the mistakes are, where the problems are, what are the problems, why such industries become sick units or sick industries are running into losses. So this board will look after the revival of such industries. That is public sector policy. So always it meet the interests of, or it fulfill the interests of workers who are working on industries. And coming to MRTP. Eighth one is MRTP Act 1969. MRTP Act. What is MRTP? It is important for 2 marks. So it means monopoly restrictive and trade practices. This act has actually introduced in the year 1969, but actually it came into the force 1970. So this should be get prior approval for the government to expansion, for establishment of any new undertaking, merger, amalgamation, taken over or appointment of directors and removal of them, and everything there should be a prior approval from government. This act will concentrate especially on controlling unfair or restrictive trade practices. Controlling unfair and trade restrictive practices. So, when international trade happening, international trade, it is going between different countries. So, definitely one country will get comparative advantage, another country they may get losses. So, under such circumstances, there is a unfair practices have been taken place. Both countries they have to get profits somehow. If it is not so, so there is a unfair practices, restrictive trade practices. So the monopoly, restrictive trade practices, unfair trade practices must be abolished. Abolished. So that will be looked after by World Trade Organization, WTO. WTO. We will discuss in 7th chapter in detail with regard to WTO, World Trade Organization, what its role earlier in the place of World Trade Organization, what was there, GATT, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. So here our point is New Industrial Policy 1991. So it is an important industrial policy because India has recognized unless until industrial development taken place, there is no development of agriculture as well as service sector. Industrial sector is the key industries. Industrial sector can decide the face of the economy. So therefore, our policy makers, they have very seriously studied and implemented new industrial policy. Lot of liberal policies have been implemented. Licensing has been abolished, and particular industries they are under the control of public sector, and automatic clearance of import of capital goods from other countries. Then location policy, if anybody establish any industry nearby public, so it should be non-polluting industry. More than 1 million population, it should be beyond the cities, nearly 25 kilometers distance. And again, foreign investment policy, foreign direct investment policy. So after new industrial policy, it is up to foreign direct investment has been allowed 51%. Then again, technology, foreign technology agreement. Technology also it is very important thing. Then finally, MR and public policy. Public policy also it has the look after of the security and interests of people who are engaged on or working in industrial sector when they lost their jobs. Because of such industries become closed down, incurring losses. Then coming to MRTP, monopoly trade restrictive practices. So the main aim of MRTP is to control unfair trade practices. At the same time, so there is a criticism also. So the new industrial policy has left some criticism also. Many academicians and policy makers and left parties, especially for CPI and CPM people, they have argued that new industrial policy has given more negative effects. It has resulted more negative effects with regard to foreign direct investment and privatization. It has given more space for privatization and absence of security. It has absence of security. And again, on employment generation. This new industrial policy 1991, what extent of people got employment? Got employment. And again, it is a threat to economic sovereignty. 1991 industrial policy, it is a threat to economic sovereignty. So let us just discuss about what is the criticism on 1991 policy. So far we have seen important features. Important features. There are nearly 8 important features are there. First one is delicensing. Delicensing. Second one is reservation for public sector. Public sector. Third one is automatic clearance of import of foreign technology or technology. And fourth one is location. Fifth one is foreign direct investment. Sixth one is foreign technology agreement. Seventh one is public policy. Eighth one is MRTP Act. Main features of 1991 industrial policy. We will discuss about criticism. Criticism on New Industrial Policy 1991. So, it is very welcoming step. India has introduced New Industrial Policy 1991 because of during 90s there are many problems India had been undergone. Under compulsion, India has introduced this 1991 industrial policy. There are a lot of benefits. India has emerged as one of the global economy and joining at international trade and more trade relations may have with the number of countries and foreign technology it can import, even foreign direct investment also it can be allowed, and more people they got employment opportunities. But there are many advantages are there. At the same time, some criticism also there. Criticism. First one is foreign direct investment. First one is foreign direct investment. So generally, this foreign direct investment, it come from outside. People they may come from outside and invest here. After some times, what happens generally, the foreigners, they promote, they may get profits earned here, and transfer to their own domestic country. Whatever the profits they may earn here in India, there is a possibility to transfer that profits into their own country. So there is no further investment in Indian industries. That profits will go into their own country. So that is a negative shade of foreign direct investment. Investment will be there, but the profits will going into their own country. That is the first criticism. Then, second one is privatization. Why many of public sector units public sector units become sick and they have handed over into private people. So that type of sick industries, if we see the percentage of sick units, the industries which become sick are closed. Such industries only 3%. It is only 3%. That 3% industries which are sick, those industries have given to private people. So this is also another important criticism. So 3%, it is not 100%. It is only 3% of losses, those industries. If government think that they may revive, but government thought that it is very risky. We cannot run such industries. If we revive such industries, again they may go into losses. So it would be better to give private people, hand of the private people. They can make that industries to go in a smooth way and get more profits. It is risky FIA. So that privatization also, it is such industries only 3%. But it is not a correct step. Many policy makers, they have criticized to the Indian economy. Then third one is absence of security. Absence of security. Absence of security means removal of workers in the industries. When those industries become sick or closed down because of losses, so what about the security of people who are working on such industries? They could lost their jobs. They lost their jobs. If such industries handed over to private people will not give or provide employment to the same people. They may take other people. But these people earlier who worked on such industries, they suffer a lot. Absence of security. Many public sector units become sick, running into losses, and they are handed over to private people. But what about the people who earlier worked on such industries? So it is missing of security. So this is also serious thing which policy makers has to think it. Then fourth one, absence of security. Then fourth one is on employment generation. On employment generation. Actually, many of policy makers and academicians, they have questioned to the government what extent after new industrial policy 1991 has provided job opportunities. How many people they got employment opportunities? There is a serious criticism against 1991. Before industrial policy, more people they have depend on industrial sector. They may be small scale industries, medium size industries, or large scale industries. More people they got employment opportunities. But after introducing of new industrial policy, that percentage has been come down. Very few people they got employment opportunities. Very few people. So there is no particular census. There is no records. What extent of people got employment opportunities after allowing of FDI, foreign direct investment, on public sector units. And the last one is, fifth one, Threat to economic sovereignty. Threat to economic sovereignty. థ్రెట్ టు ఎకనామిక్ సావర్నిటీ, ఆర్థిక సార్వభౌమత్వం అనేది దెబ్బతింటుంది. ఎకనామిక్ సావర్నిటీ, దట్ ఈస్ థ్రెట్ టు ఎకనామిక్ సావర్నిటీ. బికాస్ MNCs, as we know, multinational companies and private people, they coming into India and invest and all the foreign direct investment people who invest in India and through privatization, because the ownership has been given into the hands of private people. Foreign direct investment come from outside, and again all these things, India, it may lose its independency. India, it may lose its independency. It may lose its control on public sector units, because large share come from outside of country, and ownership also it is in the hands of private people. Those people, they will manage, they will control all the economic resources and economic power, and they may enjoy profits. They may enjoy profits. Only they might pay taxes only to the government. So by introducing of new industrial policy, it may given major change of Indian economy, but there are lot of things on positive side, but at the same time there are negative things also there with regard to new industrial policy. So this type of MNC is major threat to the economic sovereignty. So they may control all the resources. The economic power, it may be concentrating in the hands of few people. Nowadays the world has become global economy. So the purchasing of goods and services also, it is not a offline, it is online nowadays. Whatever we need, the things, we can simply give order. It may be through Flipkart or Snapdeal or Amazon, which is the biggest shopping markets through online. So those people always, they earn lot of incomes, lot of profits. So government has to think whether this new industrial policy has given more of advantages or more of disadvantages or losses. So this is all about new industrial policy 1991. This question is very important for the public examination point of view. So this type of question they may ask you. Earlier I told you that critically examine new industrial policy 1991. If you see previous question papers, they have asked you like this: critically examine new industrial policy 1991. If they ask you like that, we have to write introduction and objectives, features of new industrial policy. Up to features only it has been mentioned in our textbook. Okay, 8 features are mentioned in our second year economics textbooks. But the criticism, these 5 points are not yet been mentioned in textbook. These points just I have collected from somewhere and I have studied, I have explained to you. So please note down these 5 points also. What are those 5 points? First one is foreign direct investment. And again privatization. Second one is absence of security, absence of security. Fourth one is what extent? Unemployment generation. Unemployment generation. Fifth one is it is a threat to economic sovereignty. So the 10 marks question, they have to divide introduction part 2 marks, objectives 1 mark, features 5 marks, nearly 8 marks. Then coming to criticism 2 marks. Then it is 10 marks. So the scheme of valuation, all the 10 marks, how they can distribute. If paper examiners, they have to allocate the marks, 10 marks on if you like this, if you write like this only. Introduction, objectives of New Industrial Policy 1991 and features of New Industrial Policy 1991 and finally criticism. Criticism, it is 2 marks. Nearly 10 marks you will get. Okay. So far we have discussed from 5th chapter, that is importance of industrial sector or significance of industrial sector. Then later we have discussed 1948 first industrial policy. Later we have discussed 1956 industrial policy, and finally in previous class, even just now, we have discussed 1991 industrial policy, which is an important concept of 5th chapter. Then coming to another important concept which we also going to discuss, that is SEZ, New Economic, Special Economic Zones. Special Economic Zones. Critically evaluate special economic zones. Special economic zones. So this question also they have asked earlier for 5 marks, even for 10 marks also. Critically evaluate. Critically evaluate means there is a criticism also we have to write. Whatever the positive things with regard to special economic zones, what are the disadvantages or criticism? Critically evaluate SEZ policy in India. In India. So, if we see the SEZ policy, (2005). The Act, it has came into 2005. Generally, the Government of India announced special economic zones. Special economic zones policy, April 2000. This policy aims at rapid economic growth, supported by quality infrastructure, complemented by attractive fiscal package. Complemented by attractive fiscal package. Fiscal package means some exemptions has been given. Tax exemption and customs exemption and export duty exemption. All these things, fiscal package has been given, both to central government and state government, with minimum possible regulations. regulations are many, it has removed minimum regulations. So in India, while passing the SEZ Act in May 2005 and came into effect from February 10, 2006. February 10, February 10th, 2006, actually it is put into implementation, SEZ Act. So, what is the meaning of SEZ? What is the meaning of SEZ? Generally, it is a geographical location within the country. It is a geographical location within the country. Geographical locations. Within the country. SEZ, it is a geographical locations within the country. Within the country. They are areas which are notified by located outside of domestic territory. Domestic territory. Notified to be, and government thought that setting up SEZs, a new mantra for economic development. Government has thought that setting up of SEZs, it is a new mantra of economic development of a country, especially in construction of SEZ. Generally, what type of SEZs? Why? For lot of land has been acquired, or gathering of lot of land for construction of airport, ports, telephone generation, distribution of power, construction of industries and commercial and residential complexes. So for this purpose, SEZ policy has been implemented. What are those? For airports, construction of airports, and ports, ports, telephone generation, distribution of power, construction of industrial and commercial and residential complexes. So for this purpose, SEZ, special economic zones, have been set up. Then coming to, so this SEZ is specifically defined geographical area. It is specifically defined. Each SEZ, nearly 5,000 of acres land is required. For each SEZ, if they are setting up in certain particular place, nearly what extent of land is required? Nearly 5,000. 5,000 of acres of land it requires to setting up of SEZ, special economic zones. Because SEZ, it can give more employment opportunities. It can provide more employment opportunities, and also lot of foreign direct investment coming into India, and more production will take place, exports, and there are a lot of changes may be taking place. So the goal of FDI, what are the goal or objectives of FDI? Objectives of SEZ. Objectives of SEZ, special economic zones. First one is generation of additional economic activity. Generation of additional economic activities. So economic activities must be speed up by setting up of special economic zones. That is first one. Second one is promotion of exports of goods and services. More of production of goods and services. Promotion of goods and services. So third one is promotion of investment from domestic and foreign direct investment. Promotion of more investment from domestic country, that is within the country, and from outside of the country, that is foreign direct investment. Then coming to development of investment facilities, development of infrastructural facilities, and creation of more employment opportunities. So there are nearly five important objectives are there. First one is creation of additional economic activities, creation of economic activities, and promotion of export of goods and services, and more investment it comes from outside, and employment generation through SEZ, more employment generation will be taken place, and more infrastructural development will taken place, setting up of new airports, setting up of new seaport, setting up of industrial corridors, and telecommunication and power generation plants, and industrial estates and commercial estates. There are many things they may setting up through SEZ, through SEZ. So here, if we see when SEZ, it has up to 2013, up to 2013, how many SEZs are there? If we see according to 2013, notified number of SEZs nearly 389. Notified SEZs are 389, and functioning 170. Functioning 170 SEZs are functioning, and provided employment to nearly 10,74,904 persons. Nearly 10 lakh people, they got employment through special economic zones. And what are the exports from SEZ? Exports are nearly rupees 4,76,159 crore. Exports are also very high during 2012 and 13. As per the provision of SEZ Act 2005, 100% foreign direct investment has been allowed. 100% of FDI. 100% of FDI has been allowed in SEZs. So just so far we have seen what for SEZs are established. When SEZ Act came, actually it came in the year 2005, but actually it put into implementation February 10, 2006. Okay, by setting up of SEZ, more people they will get employment opportunities, more investment come from within the country and outside the country as foreign direct investment, and there is a big boost for exporting of goods and services, and there are infrastructural development it takes place. There are many things through SEZ. Okay, so objectives also we have seen, and what are the packages, incentives given by government, and finally what are the disadvantages or what is the criticism on SEZ. If time permits, I will explain what are the incentives provided by central government while setting up of SEZ in such and localities, and what are the disadvantages. First, SEZ has been set up in the state of Gujarat, that is Kandla, that is in the year 1965. So far, nearly 7 or 8 SEZ industries are there. SEZ industries are there. Even in Visakhapatnam also, one SEZ is there. Kandla, in Mumbai, and Cochin, and even in Chennai, even in Calcutta. All these places SEZ already there. Special economic zones. Special economic zones, we can say in one word, they are the engine of economic growth. They are the engine of economic growth. So this question also important for 5 marks. If time permit, I will explain you all these things in another class. Okay? Thank you for watching. Bye. See you.
Good morning to one and all. This is Shobha, Physics PGT from KGBV, Setanagaram. I would like to explain about electromagnetic induction. So what is electromagnetic induction means? In previous classes, we learned about electric field, magnetic field, and what are the properties of electric field lines and what are the properties of magnetic field lines. So according to Ørsted, we know that whenever the current passes through the wire, it will produce a magnetic field. So, the current carrying conductor produces a magnetic field. So, this is invented by Ørsted. So, the converse of that, when can we produce a electric current with the help of a magnet? Yes. It is also possible. So, it is invented by Faraday. It is invented by Faraday. It is invented by Faraday. So, here, what is that means? How the current, electric current is produced with the help of a magnet means. So, he explained a number of experiments. He observed a number of experiments. From those experiments, we have 3 experiments. From that experiments, he concluded that electric current is produced with the help of a magnet. So, what are those? Means he considered one of the ring. It is made up of soft iron. It is made up of soft iron. And one end of the ring is attached to that battery as well as switch. Battery as well as switch. And another end is also attached to that galvanometer G. So here, one of the experiment of Faraday's. Faraday explained the converse of Faraday explained that due to that means electric current is produced with the help of a magnet. So, this is the converse of Ørsted. This is the converse of Ørsted. So, what is the Ørsted experiment means? Ørsted already we know that whenever the current passes through the conductor, produces a magnetic field. So, the converse of this, Faraday explained that the current is produced with the help of a magnet. So, how the current is produced with the help of a magnet? He explained some of the experiments. So, from these experiments, he concluded that electric current is produced with the help of a magnet. So, one of the experiment is he considered as a ring. One end of the ring is wound with wire, and this wire is connected to that battery as well as switch. And another end is also connected to the wounded with wire, and it is connected to that galvanometer. So, switch. So this is battery and this is switch. So he closed that switch. So then what will happen means there is no deflections observed in galvanometer. There is no deflections. So it shows a zero deflection. So whenever he switch on that switch, then also he observed that there is no deflections in galvanometer. After that, he confused that why the current does not passes through the first end of the ring to another end of the ring. So then after that he was doing the switch is on and off. The switch is on and off. Then he observed that there is a deflections in galvanometer. So then what will happen whenever the switch is closed? Whenever the switch is closed means the current passes through the wire. The current passes through the wire. So according to Ørsted, whenever the current passes through the wire, magnetic field is produced. So whenever the switch is closed, here the magnetic field lines are passes from first end of the ring to second end of the ring. Here the magnetic lines are maximum whenever the switch is closed. Switch is closed means it is closed loop. So that's why the current, the magnetic lines are passes through the first end of the ring to second end of the ring. So why? Because here it is made up of soft iron. It acts as a ferromagnetic substance. So ferromagnetic substance means it absorbs it. It attracts more magnetic lines which are coming from the first end. So then what will happen? The number of magnetic field lines are moves towards from first end to second end of the ring. So then here what will happen means after when the switch is closed, there is no deflections observed in galvanometer. Whenever the switch is open, there is no deflections occurred in galvanometer. So whenever he was doing switch on and off, then only he observed that there is a deflections occurred in galvanometer. There is a deflections observed in galvanometer. Means whenever magnetic field is increases or decreases. So whenever the switch is closed, so magnetic field is increases. The number of lines passes from first end to second end. So then here what will happen? Magnetic field is increases. So whenever the switch is open, there is no magnetic lines. So here the magnetic field is decreases. So whenever the magnetic field is increases or decreases means whenever the magnetic field is changes, then only he observed the deflections in galvanometer. So here whenever the switch is on and off, then only he observed that deflections in galvanometer. So from this, whenever the magnetic field lines are increases, then what will happen means the flux is increases. What is flux? What is flux? It is represented by the phi. Already we know that in electric flux, in previous classes, what is the electric flux? Electric flux is nothing but E bar dot A bar. Flux phi is equals to the number of electric lines passing through the surface. So that is nothing but the number of lines, the number of electric lines which are perpendicular to that surface, that is nothing but flux. So if this is electric flux, what about magnetic flux? Magnetic flux is nothing but B bar dot A bar. B bar dot A bar. So from this, whenever the magnetic field is changes, magnetic field is changes means magnetic lines. Okay, now magnetic lines are changes. Whenever the magnetic lines are changes, then only he observed the deflections in galvanometer. So from this experiment, he concluded that there is a change in magnetic field, produces a current. Produces a current. So whenever we are observing the deflections in galvanometer, then what will happen means the current passes through the second end of the ring. Second end of the ring. So here what will happen? The current, that current is nothing but induced current. Induced current. So this induced current is responsible for change in magnetic flux. Whenever the magnetic flux is changes, then induced current is produced. Induced current is produced. So from this experiment, he conclude that, according to that, what will happen here? Whenever the magnetic field lines are changes, magnetic field lines are increases or decreases, then the magnetic field is changes. Whenever the magnetic field is changes, then the flux is also varies. Whenever the flux is varies, then only induced current is produced. So induced current is responsible for varying of magnetic flux. Varying of magnetic flux. So this is nothing but electromagnetic induction. Means due to electric field, magnetic field is produced, and due to magnetic field, electric field is produced. Okay na? So that's why this phenomenon is known as electromagnetic induction. So electromagnetic induction, he explained that in the second experiment is two bar magnets. Two bar magnets. This is the north-south poles of the magnet. So this, in between these two magnets are connected to that one of the substance. It is also wound with wire, and this wire is connected to that galvanometer. Here there is no battery. Here there is no battery. Here we are taking only bar magnets and one of the substance material. It is wound with wire. So whenever the magnets are constant, there is no deflections observed in galvanometer. Suppose, for example, if the bar magnet is moved from here to here, then there is a deflection observed in galvanometer. Means what will happen? Here the magnet, whenever the magnet moves towards the coil or moves towards that substance, then what will happen? The number of magnetic field lines are increases. Why? Because here the bar magnet, whenever the bar magnet moves towards the coil, the number of magnetic lines are incident on this coil. So then what will happen? Here the magnetic flux is increases. So whenever the bar magnet moves away from that material, so then what will happen? Magnetic lines are decreases. So then the flux is decreases. So whenever the bar magnet moves towards or away from that substance, then only we are observing the deflections in galvanometer. So from this experiment also, whenever the magnetic flux varies, then only we are observing the deflections. Means it produces a induced current. So due to that, change in flux. Due to the change in flux, then what will happen? The induced current is produced. Whenever it shows the deflections in galvanometer, then what it means the current passes through the coil or the current passes through the wire. So this is about second experiment. And what about the third experiment? So the third experiment is nothing but this is the magnet. This is the coil. North to south poles of the magnet. So here this is a magnet and this is a coil. The bar magnet, whenever the magnet is placed, what will happen? It produces it has a magnetic field lines. It has a magnetic field lines. So these are magnetic field lines are imaginary lines. We know that. So whenever the bar magnet, see once here, these two are contact with each other. Here also the material is contact with this bar magnet, but here the magnet and the coil are separated by some distance. So then what will happen means, whenever the bar magnet is moves towards the coil, then what will happen? The number of magnetic lines are incident on this coil, and then it produces a deflections in galvanometer. So whenever the bar magnet is constant place, we have to place a bar magnet at a constant place, and the coil is at these two are, suppose for example, these two are separated by a distance 10 centimeters. Then there is no deflections observed in galvanometer. So after that, what will happen? The bar magnet moves towards the coil. Then what will happen? Magnetic field lines are increases. So whenever the magnetic field lines are increases, whenever the coil moves towards that coil, whenever the bar magnet moves towards the coil, then what will happen? The flux is increases. Or the bar magnet moves away from the coil, then the flux is decreases. So when in the same way, if the coil is moves towards the bar magnet, then also the flux is increases. After that, the coil moves away from the magnet, then also the flux is decreases. So then the flux is decreases means what will happen? Whenever the coil or bar magnet moves, then only we have a deflections observed in galvanometer. Otherwise, there is no deflections in galvanometer. So here also, from this experiment also, we have to conclude that when there is a change in flux, then the induced current is produced. So from these three experiments, Faraday conclude that the induced current is produced due to the magnetic field. Okay, na? So that's why. Then can we get a electric current with the help of a magnet? Yes. Why? Because from these three experiments, we have to conclude that electric current is produced. With the help of a magnet. Okay, now so this is about Faraday's experiment. induction means magnetic field is produced due to that current carrying conductor, and in the same way current is produced with the help of a magnet. So this is nothing but this phenomenon is known as electromagnetic induction. So next one is, what is magnetic flux? Already we know that what is magnetic flux. Already what is electric flux? E bar dot A bar, we know that, and the magnetic flux phi is equals to B bar dot A bar. When the magnetic field is multiplied with the area, surface, so then it will give us a magnetic flux. So what is, suppose for example we have to take a positive charge. So from this positive charge, electric field lines are coming from that positive charge. We have to place a board or any book. Suppose for example we have to take a book. So nearer to that positive charge, then what will happen? These electric field lines are incident on the surface. These electric field lines are moves towards the surface which we have to take. Suppose for example this is a book. So these electric field lines are incident on this book. So again we have to take a chalk piece. Again these electric field lines are incident on this chalk piece. Okay now. So from this book, compared to book, the magnetic field lines are here, the incident magnetic field lines, the rays, the field lines are coming from that positive charge. So incident on this chalk piece, it is less, the magnetic field lines are less. Few magnetic field lines are incident on this chalk piece. So compared to book, here maximum number of electric field lines are incident. So why? Because here the surface area is more. The surface area of the book is more compared to the chalk piece. So this depends upon the area. Suppose what is magnetic flux? Magnetic flux is nothing but phi is equals to B bar dot A bar. So here if the area is increases, then the flux is increases. Here surface area is increases, then the flux is increases. If the field lines are increases, magnetic field is increases, then also flux is increases. So in the same way magnetic flux, in the same way magnetic flux is also depends upon the surface of the substance. So surface area. So then from that phi is equals to B bar dot A bar means it is a scalar product. Dot product. Dot product is nothing but scalar product. So BA cos theta. Why? Because it is a scalar product. So phi is equals to BA cos theta. If theta is 0, if the theta is 0, then what will happen? Flux phi is equals to BA cos 0. Then what will happen? Flux, what is the value of cos 0? Cos 0 is nothing but 1. So from that flux phi is equals to BA. Means if theta is 0 means, then what will happen? That is parallel. If theta is 0 means, those are parallel. This is the theta parallel means, theta 0 means the lines are parallel. So that's why then the flux is BA. Suppose for example, if theta is 90, BA cos 90. If theta is 90, then what will happen? then what will happen? Say phi is equals to BA into cos 90 means 0. Cos 90 0 means flux is 0. Means here if it is a perpendicular, whenever perpendicular means theta is 90 means the field lines are perpendicular. So perpendicular means what will happen? Theta is 90 degrees, then the flux is 0. Flux is 0. So when the flux is maximum means if theta is 0, then the flux is maximum. If theta is 90, then the flux is minimum. Okay na? So what about magnetic flux? So magnetic flux is nothing but suppose for example it depends upon the area of the surface area and magnetic field. So flux is equals to phi is equals to magnetic field is multiplied by that surface area. It will give us a flux. So that is flux phi is equals to B bar dot A bar. So dot, whenever it is a dot product is nothing but scalar product. So flux phi is equals to BA cos theta. If theta is 0, suppose for example, this is a substance, it is placed in a magnetic field B. So the number of lines passing through the surface which are perpendicular to that magnetic field. So that is nothing but magnetic flux. So the magnetic flux, suppose for example, this is the magnetic field B. Suppose this is the substance. Its area is A bar. Then the flux, suppose it will rotate. It will make an angle theta. So when it is parallel to that field, so then what will happen? Parallel to that field means theta is 0 degrees. Whenever theta is 0, then the flux is maximum. Suppose if it is perpendicular means what is flux? The perpendicular lines. What is flux means? The number of lines which are passing through the surface. The magnetic field lines which are passing through the surface, those are perpendicular. So that is nothing but magnetic flux. The number of lines passing through that surface. So that is nothing but flux. Phi is equals to B bar dot A bar. So from that, if it makes an angle theta to that magnetic field, if the theta is 0 means parallel, then what will happen? Flux is maximum. If theta is 90, this surface is perpendicular, then what will happen? Means flux is minimum. So this is about magnetic flux. Phi is equals to B bar dot A bar. Magnetic field is multiplied with that surface area, then we will get flux. So why it has a scalar quantity? Why it has a scalar product? Flux B bar dot A bar. Why it has a scalar quantity and why it has not a vector quantity? Means suppose for example consider a bar magnet, north pole and south pole of the magnet. So the field lines which are coming from the north pole moves towards the south pole. We know that. So here, then what will happen means, suppose for example, we have to take a book or any one of the objects. Suppose for example, this is the north pole and this is the the south pole. So the magnetic lines which are coming from the north pole to south pole. So the magnetic lines which are coming from the north pole, that lines are passes from north pole to south pole. We know that. So then one of the important one is the area of the surface is always perpendicular, and it's towards our eye. So suppose for example this is the surface and the area is perpendicular. And the magnetic lines are passes through like this. So then A is perpendicular to B. Suppose for example we have to take in this side. So this is the surface. So the area is perpendicular. Suppose for example it is a surface, the area is perpendicular like this, and this is a surface. In this surface the area is like this. So the area is perpendicular to that surface. We know that. Suppose for example we have to take in this area. In this area, this is perpendicular. This is the perpendicular lines. This is the direction of the area, and the magnetic lines are also in this direction. So that's why those are parallel. So in this way, A is parallel to B. So here A is perpendicular to B and A is parallel to B. A is perpendicular to B means theta is 90 degrees. A is parallel to B means theta is 0 degrees. So from this flux phi is equals to BA cos theta, and flux phi is equals to BA sin theta. So from this flux phi is equals to BA cos theta, then what will happen? Here see once, whenever the theta is 90 means BA cos 90. What is the value of cos 90? Cos 90 0. BA is cos 90 is 0 means that the flux is 0. In case of vector product, BA sin theta. So then flux phi is equals to BA sin 90. Then flux phi is equals to BA into what is the value of sin 90? Sin 90 is 1. Then flux phi is equals to BA. So in the same way, when the theta is 0 degrees, so flux phi is equals to BA cos theta, and flux phi is equals to BA sin theta. So here theta means 0. BA cos 0. What is the value of cos 0? Cos 0 is nothing but 1. So then BA. So from this phi is equals to BA sin 0. Sin 0 is nothing but 0. So BA into 0. So then the flux is 0. So from this, see once, whenever the area is perpendicular to that magnetic field, then what will happen? Here, whenever the area is, so suppose for example, in this surface, the area is perpendicular to this surface, and the magnetic lines are passes through like this, in this direction. So these are perpendicular means, then what will happen? The impact of magnetic lines is less. The impact of magnetic lines is less. So from that the flux is minimum. So here, see once, the flux is minimum means we have to take a scalar product, then the flux is minimum. We have to take a vector product, then the flux is maximum. In the same way, we have to take in this direction. Both are parallel. So then what will happen means the number of lines here, the number of lines passes through in this direction. direction and a area is also in this direction. So then what will happen? Theta is 90. Theta is 90. Then what will happen means here it has a maximum flux. It has a maximum flux. So then in case of vector product, here the flux is 0. Here the flux is 0. So see once here, in this case, the direction of the area is surface, perpendicular to the surface. So that's why this is the direction of area. This is the direction of area and the magnetic lines are like this. So from this, the impact is less. From this, the impact is less. So that's why the magnetic flux is 0. Suppose for example in this case this is the direction of the magnetic lines and this is the area. This is the direction of the area. So here in this area it has a more impact. The magnetic lines are maximum number of magnetic lines are incident on this surface. So then what will happen means here the flux is maximum. The flux is maximum. So that's why in case of scalar product the conditions are satisfied. So that's why we have to take a scalar product. We have to take a scalar product. So why? Because see once here in this case the direction of the area is perpendicular to the surface. The area direction is in this like this and the magnetic lines are like this. So from this the magnetic lines are incident on this surface. Then what will happen means it will impact the few magnetic lines are incident in this surface. So that's why the magnetic flux is decreases in this case whenever we have to take in this direction. So this is the surface and this is the perpendicular line. So the magnetic lines maximum number of magnetic lines are incident on the surface. So then what will happen means the flux is increases. So this is the parallel condition. So whenever the theta is 0, then the flux is maximum. In this condition, whenever the theta is 90 degrees, then the flux is minimum. So that's why we have to take only scalar product. And the next one is induced EMF. What is induced EMF? EMF is nothing but electromotive force. Electromotive force. So already we know that the flux varies with respect to the flux d phi, delta phi is varies with respect to time. The flux is varies with respect to time. So here d phi by dt it represents d phi by dt. So in suppose for example the flux varies with respect to time. The flux is suppose for example 10 Tesla within a time 3 seconds. 3 seconds. So here the flux is varies with respect to time. The flux is varies with respect to time, but it is in opposite direction. Means here the induced EMF is equals to the negative rate of magnetic flux. The negative rate of magnetic flux is called as induced EMF. So this is nothing but Faraday's law. So what is Faraday's law means? The negative rate of magnetic flux. The negative rate of magnetic flux is called induced EMF, which will give us a Faraday's law. Faraday said that we know that Faraday said that electromagnetic induction means the current is produced due to that magnet. So from that is nothing but the current is produced due to that magnet, and in the same way converse is also existed. So that is nothing but electromagnetic induction. So induced EMF is nothing but the negative rate of magnetic flux. Rate of magnetic flux means, suppose in 3 seconds 10 Tesla flux is existed, then that is said to be the negative rate of flux. Magnetic flux is said to be a induced EMF. So what is the average induced EMF? Average induced EMF. So what is average induced EMF means? Suppose for example we have to take a coil. It has a number of turns. It has a number of turns N, capital N. It has a number of turns, capital N. Then what is the average induced EMF means? Here also the flux. Whenever, suppose for example, the flux where the magnet moves towards the coil, then what will happen? The flux is increases with respect to time. The flux is varies with respect to time. Suppose for example in 3 seconds, what is the flux? In 4 seconds, what is the flux? So we have to calculate all, and that we have to, after that we have to calculate the average EMF. So for example, if it has a turns and a number of turns, then the average induced EMF is equals to minus N into delta phi by delta T. It is the average induced EMF. So the next one is instantaneous induced EMF. Next one is instantaneous induced EMF. Instantaneous induced EMF means at particular time what is the flux. So that will give us a instantaneous, at a particular instant of time what is the flux. So suppose for example what is the limit delta t tends to 0. Delta t tends to 0 minus delta phi by delta t, which will give us a d phi by dt minus d phi by dt. So this is instantaneous instantaneous induced EMF. So instantaneous induced EMF is nothing but minus d phi by dt. Suppose for example it has a number of turns n, minus n into d phi by dt. This is the instantaneous induced EMF. So these are all the, according to electromagnetic introduction. This is about electromagnetic introduction and Faraday's experiment. So first one is what is electromagnetic induction? We know that whenever the current carrying conductor produces a magnetic field, in the same way the current is produced due to that magnetic field. So this is nothing but electromagnetic. This phenomenon is known as electromagnetic induction. So this is the current is produced due to with the help of a magnet is invented by Faraday's. He did so many experiments. In those experiments, we learned 3 experiments from that. Then first one is coil. First one is a ring. It is made up of soft iron. One end is wounded with wire, and that wire is connected to that switch as well as battery. And another end is also wounded with wire. It is connected to that galvanometer. So whenever the switch is closed, there is no deflections observed in that galvanometer. Whenever the switch is, whenever we are doing a switch on and off, then what will happen means there exists a deflections in galvanometer. We are observed that there is a deflections in galvanometer. So from that we have to conclude that due to that variation of magnetic field, whenever the switch is closed, then what will happen? Magnetic field lines are moves from first end to the second end of the ring. So then after that, then whenever we are switching on and off, then what will happen? The field is changes. Whenever the magnetic field is changes, then there exists a deflections in galvanometer. So from that we have to conclude that there is a change in magnetic flux. It produces a current. That current is nothing but induced current. This is about Faraday's. And another experiment, two magnets, he take two magnets and one of the substance, this is also wounded with wire, and whenever the magnet moves towards that substance, the magnetic flux is increases. Whenever the magnet moves away from that substance, then the flux is decreases. Then what will happen? Whenever the flux is increasing or decreasing, whenever the magnet moves, then only he observed the direction, he observed the deflections in galvanometer. Okay, next the third one is also same. After that, magnetic flux. So what is magnetic flux? Magnetic flux is nothing but phi is equals to B dot A. So B dot A means B bar dot A bar. So here B bar dot A bar, B bar is a magnetic field and A is the area. So it depends upon the area of the surface and the magnetic field. If the area of the surface is increases, then the flux is increases. If the area of the surface is decreases, then the flux is decreases. Okay, we know that. And what are the SI units of flux? SI units of flux is Weber or Tesla. Weber or Tesla. Okay, the next one is why we are taking only the flux phi is equals to B bar dot A bar. Why we are taking dot product? Why we did not take a cross product means it has a dot product. So the surface here in one of the case, the surface is always perpendicular to that area, the direction of the area. So that's why here this condition, whenever the magnetic lines are parallel to that surface of that area, then what will happen? Flux is maximum. And in case of perpendicular direction, the flux is minimum. So we have to take only scalar product. Only in this case it will be existed. So that's why we are taking only scalar product. B bar dot A bar. So next one is induced EMF. What is induced EMF means? Induced EMF is nothing but the negative rate of magnetic flux. Negative rate of magnetic flux is nothing but here the flux is varies with respect to time. It negative sign represents the opposite direction. So delta phi by delta t. That is nothing but induced EMF. Average induced EMF if it contains any number of turns. Induced EMF is equals to minus n into d phi by delta t. What about instantaneous induced EMF? Instantaneous induced EMF is nothing but if delta t tends to 0, then what will happen? It will be converted into delta phi by delta t into d phi by dt. So if it has a number of turns n, then induced EMF is equals to minus n into